us today for this great webinar. We have so much to share, lots of great information. So super glad you've been able to take time out of your day to join us. We have a wonderful BPNN quarterly call ready for you. My name is Kara Georgi. I am the Alliance National Parent Partnership Associate, helping to support all our wonderful work with the BPNN. And so it is a pleasure to welcome all of you today. And I just want to take a moment and ask that you share your name and role and the state that you're joining us from, so we can get a sense of who is here. As people are settling in, it's always great. So go ahead and continue sharing that information in, and it will be great to get a sense of who we have joining us. It looks like we have a great audience. And as you're doing that and sharing a little bit about who you are and where you're joining from, I'm hoping that it has been a wonderful day for you. I also want to help our fantastic group of panelists and speakers today get a sense of the hat that you're wearing, because some of us wear a lot of hats. And so I'm going to launch this poll as well, get a little bit of interaction going on, and get a sense of what hat or hats are you wearing today. And if you're wearing a bunch, I know some of us do, you can go ahead and select more than one choice. What's that prime when you're here? Are you a parent? Are you maybe a staff member? Are you maybe in an administrative role? Maybe you're a community stakeholder and you're like, ooh, I want to learn about this. How do we really make parent voice loud and strong? Maybe you're an agency representative, or maybe you fall into the other category. Maybe I didn't have a good description for that awesome hat that you were wearing, and I encourage you to share that in the chat so we can just get a sense of who is here, who's joining us, and what that perspective is. One of the things that I think is really important about our Birth Parent National Network is it is a way to really elevate parent voice, but that's done in partnership with parents, organizations, and also stakeholders that are really helping to elevate that and learn about that and help to spread that across the country. I have a special treat for you all who are joining us today. I really want to keep expanding this network, because what you are going to hear today is from some of the founding members from when the BPNN first started. And you're going to hear the dreams and the amazing hard work that they've put in. And so I want you to take a look at these results. I want us to really think about how do we get more people involved with the BPNN, to join these webinars, to get the information, to hear and be able to dream. So we, over the rest of this month, are going to have a fun little opportunity to recommend people to join the BPNN. When you do that, share the BPNN website link with them so that they can join. And I also want to tell them to put your name of who referred you, because we're going to be putting those names and a big fun spinny wheel and drawing some names for prizes, because we want to keep this network nice and strong and make sure we're really elevating that parent voice. So I encourage you, be sharing that with people and encouraging others to join, but just really appreciate you all being with us today. And so with that, I'm going to take us to our next slide and have a space to introduce our awesome co-facilitators today. I know technology can be a little bit tricky, so I'm hoping Iquana might have been able to join, but if not, that is okay. We'll give her a spot leader as we figure out those technology challenges. But I want to start. Awesome, woohoo! See, technology cannot keep people away from the BPNN. We figure it out. Nice job. So I'm actually going to start with you, Iquana, then. I'm so glad you're here. She is from Virginia. And Iquana, what do you feel is important about parent voice?
I feel that parent voice is important because we need to know how to speak up for ourselves sometimes. Instead of always having somebody else advocate for us, we need to learn and know how to advocate for ourselves. So I think that's important.
That is so important. And I agree, Iquana, because there's nothing like parents being able to really help others understand what it is that families need and what it is like being a parent in today's world. So thank you for sharing that. And I also want to take a moment to introduce Johnny, who is our birth parent member from California. So Johnny, welcome. I want to give you a chance to say welcome and you share your perspective about why is parent voice important?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. You know, being a birth parent and speaking on behalf of birth parents, it's always good to have that experience from those birth parents to bring to light, you know, to the forefront of all these, you know, these opportunities that we're working on. And like Aquana said, you know, instead of somebody speaking for us, we can bring the experience that we have to the forefront to allow for further, you know, progression. With what we're working on. And thank you, Kara.
Yeah, thank you so much, Johnny. It is so important that we have that space to have that parent voice heard. And I think one of the things that I appreciate most about the work that you do, Johnny, is really making sure that father voice is loud and strong. And so it is doing work like this with our BPNN quarterly webinars where we can lift that up. It's also where we can share great resources like this one. So this formerly was known as the Parent Partnership Compendium. We are now calling it the Parent Partnership Organizations, because when we do a nice, awesome facelift and give things these beautiful looks, we make sure to update it with great information about parent support groups, advisory councils, networks that are really partnering to build healthy communities and improve systems in partnership with parents. This is updated. It is new on the BPNN page. We'll drop that link in the chat so you can check that out. And I encourage you to see what organizations you find in there. See if maybe yours is. Maybe yours is new and we didn't know about it yet. Let us know that. We want to keep building this out and keep building out this idea of the importance and value of partnership. And what I'm really, yes.
Is that the link that's for downloading the directory? Is that the same link that you're, okay, thank you.
You're very welcome, Trish. Thanks for double checking on that. And one of the other pieces that I believe is important about partnership is the partnership between the parents and the network. And why I'm saying that is because I get the privilege of introducing Sharonda Selvanoff, who will be our moderator today. Sharonda is a BPNN founding member. She is unbelievable in how she shares because she keeps it really real. There are many moments where Sharonda has shared her experiences, her wisdom, and her insight, and it has really made a huge difference for communities, for families. She is now the policy director for the Children's Home Society of Washington and is truly a foundational member that can help inspire and encourage us all to dream bigger and to know that our voice has an important space and a space where change can happen. And with that, I want to just introduce and pass it over to Sharonda to take us away with today's presentation. Thanks so much, Sharonda.
Thank you so much, Kara, for that incredible introduction. And I just want to take a little bit of a pause for a second as we enter into this space together and learn a little bit more about strengthening families and elevating the parent voice. As Kara was doing that amazing introduction, I'm always just in awe of how people speak about me. Because somewhere still inside of myself, right, I just don't see all of that. And I think it really just speaks to the power of this work, the power of community, and the power of being in company with folks that see and elevate and challenge you to be better. So I just want to thank the BPNN for being able to be a part of this and all of my wonderful colleagues and peers that I see out in the Zoom audience. So as she says, my name is Sharonda Selvanoff. I'm an impacted child welfare parent. I'm also a kinship caregiver, currently, director of public policy over at Children's Home Society of Washington. And that also kind of surprises me too. I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. In 2018, my case was closed and I was really introduced to the power of a story and sharing my experience. I would have never thought that my experience could shape policy and help support other parents in a million years. My roots sprouted in the Parent for Parent program. It's a peer-run support and system navigation approach. Working in this program, I was introduced to one of the trailblazers of this work. Kimberly Mays. I see her out there in the audience, and I cannot say enough about what a wonderful and incredible individual that woman is. I'd like to also point out that the Washington State PAC was actually instrumental in assisting in getting the Parent for Parent statewide, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Working with Kim really accelerated my skills. I was invited to lead the King County Parenting Advocacy Group. And there I would meet other parents with a shared experience, passion, and drive for change. There we shared our experiences of hardship, and we also shared our experiences of triumph. We learned from others, from one another, areas for system improvement, and we strategized on a small scale how to move forward. As this small group trudged along, I would be eventually introduced to one of the most committed trailblazers in developing the parent voice, Nancy Roberts Brown. NRB was leading the work on mobilizing the parent voice, and I was invited to the Washington State Parenting Advocacy Committee as a guest. I have to tell you, soon afterwards, I became a member, and then I actually became the facilitator. I facilitated the Washington State PAC for 6 years, and my learning and growth was exponential. At the Washington State PAC, I was surrounded by men and women who had navigated the system. I have to tell you that our experience varied. Some of us had our rights terminated. Some children were actually with relatives. Some of the parents' children were adopted. And there were some parents that had no idea where their children's whereabouts were. We were single mothers and single fathers and families, reunified parents. We were all in the same space, challenging and inspiring one another for change. Some of that change was within us, and some of that was the system that we had navigated. We were taking our lessons learned, and we were willing to teach and inform others. We took our voices and experience to the department, to the community, and to the legislator, all with a North Star of change in the system, and also for hope for parents coming after us. In our hearts and through our experience, we knew that they too could find light in the darkest moments of their lives. I want to tell you that there is power in your story, and there's power and strength in numbers. We hope that today's presentation will ignite a fire to motivate others, to mobilize parents in a way that strengthens them as individuals and brings a strong and supportive voice to the communities in which they reside, all with a vision of supporting families that we want to support in thriving in their communities. So with that, just going to go over the agenda. We're going to be talking about the Washington State Allied Committee. We're going to hear from a couple of amazing and beautiful key stakeholders. I'll be describing to you the structure. I'll also be moderating a panel with my amazing peers. We'll do some questions and answers, and then we will do a wrap up and an evaluation. I am going to turn it over to Lori Lippold. We have two stakeholders, and I want to tell you that the stakeholders have been instrumental in development and growth. And the two that you're going to hear from have just, been steadfast and committed to building up parent ally work and voice. Personally, I work along Lori daily, and I cannot describe to you in words what an incredible and beautiful individual she has been in mentoring and elevating and coaching and guiding and really just leveling the field, walking side by side. So I'm going to ask Lori that she talk a little bit about her role with the Washington State PAC, particularly related to how she's included the parent voice. And actually why, I've been a part of the PAC for 10, 11 years. Why is she still remains involved with these parents, right? So she's got a long history with us. So I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
Thank you so much, Sharonda. Hi, everybody. Like Sharonda said, and the little screen there, I'm Lori Lippold. I'm currently the Public Policy Director at an organization called Partners for Our Children. And I'm really thrilled to be here. Thank you. I see so many familiar faces or names in the participant list. And I just think it's so amazing how many people are here from all over the country. So thank you. Thanks for including me. Sharonda is, as we all know, absolutely amazing. And I'll start with that. Why do I continue to stay involved? Because Sharonda, Jason, Tanya, Gina, Kimberly, Teresa, so many of you others who are not part of this today or are, and I just didn't see your names. You're incredible, and you have made such an impact here and around the country and probably around the world. I went to something that Gina was involved with that was international. It's like, wow, this is just worldwide. So it's really such a privilege for me to be able to be involved. And I've been grateful for the employers I've had for letting me be involved in what I've wanted to be involved with, frankly, and just really being able to do the work. But I do want to go back a little bit, how I got involved. And I'm one of these people that's like, oh, what did I do yesterday? That's a good question. What did I do 20 years ago? Now, there's a really good question. So the timing is probably not going to be right, but it's been quite a while. And initially, and it was probably sometime back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was a group of parents who were involved in the Child Protective Services system here, who were really rightfully so, I'm not putting any judgment on this, very angry about what was going on. And they came to Olympia. I've been doing public policy / lobbying work since the very, very early 90s. And so have seen a lot and have been involved in a lot of the child welfare legislation over the decades. But there was a lobbyist who had mobilized parents to come to Olympia, and they were very upset about their circumstances with Child Protective Services. And they came to hearings and they went to talk to legislators and brought that anger with them. And unfortunately, in the political world, in the formal political world, one way to deal with that many policymakers seem to have is to kind of shut it out. And it was very unfortunate because the message was there and the feelings and hurt and experiences were real. It just wasn't really being heard. And somehow, then I was working with Nancy Roberts Brown, whom Sharonda mentioned. She invited me to attend a meeting, and I think, and I know Kimberly's on here, I don't know if that was before or after I had a really good opportunity to meet with Kimberly Mays and Brenda Lopez at the convening of somebody from the Office of Public Defense. And we sat and talked, and they wanted to get involved. It's like, this is fantastic. And so that was that. Kimberly and Brenda were likely the first parents I actually got to know. And then went to a meeting that Nancy Roberts Brown invited me to at Children's Home Society. I was actually in Sharonda's job at that time. And I will just never forget sitting around that table where people introduced themselves and shared their stories, where they had been, what they were doing now, and their interest in working on policy. And that, I don't know whether it was through any kind of formal invitation. I was probably thinking that, well, I'm not a parent. Do people want me to come back? But everybody was very open and gracious. And really, I've been involved with the Washington State Parent Ally Committee since then, and have seen such incredible growth and effectiveness. So one little story that I want to share is that when the parents had identified that they wanted to try to get money for, I don't even know if it was the legislation at that point, I'm a little vague on that, but it could have been the legislation as well, to really create in statute the Parent for Parents program and get funding for that. one of the longtime, very active, involved individuals with the Washington State PAC. And I met with we were both in the same legislative district at the time, our state senator. And we were sitting in a coffee shop. So much as like pre and post COVID, as we all know. So we were actually sitting in a coffee shop, and she was telling him her story, which was incredibly compelling. And he said, yeah, tell me what to do. I'll sponsor it. Like, yes, this is great. Well, the meeting ended, he left, and the woman who was at the table next to us came up to us and said, I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to be eavesdropping, but I heard your story, and is there anything I can do? And this was just somebody who was sitting there and could listen in. That is what has really happened, and that's what I've seen. And again, the ability to carry the authentic message, to bring the hurt, to bring the pain, to bring the trauma, to bring the real experiences, and to bring the hope and promise for what can be done to policymakers, whether it's people through the executive branch, the state agencies, the judicial branch, the legislative branch. And my role has really been to do whatever I can do to help guide that, to provide information, to say, yeah, if this is the issue you want to take on, here are some people you might talk to. We know that attitudes don't change overnight. I would say right now, we've had some really, really strong champions in our legislative arena, and actually now in our state agencies and executive and judicial branches. That it hasn't always been the case, and people will have their longstanding attitudes and beliefs that it's hard to change. And the way to change it, as I would bet all of you know and do, is through relationships and through building those and talking to your elected officials, talking to others, sharing the stories, getting out there in the media. And so many of you, I know from Washington State, have done that. And that's what has made the difference, so that we can get legislation passed that isn't anti-parent, that is actually pro-parent, that we're seeing policy changes made. We've got people like Jason and Tanya and others who are, Kimberly, all of you who are on the ground, both doing the ongoing day-to-day work, helping so many people in their individual circumstances, and at the same time paying attention to what do we need to bring to our policymakers so that we can affect way more people through some of the changes that hopefully will be beneficial. So again, for me, it's just been a true honor and privilege to get to know and work with so many parents, to be part of exciting legislation that we've gotten through, to help change the narrative, to help change the perception, and do whatever I can to ensure that voices are heard. So thank you very much, and thanks to all of you.
Thank you so much, Lori. You packed a punch in that, but I want to draw up a couple of points here. First of all, I want to say that when I started in the Washington State PAC, I couldn't tell you what a bill was, right? I had no clue. And because of the commitment of the stakeholders, bringing their expertise, bringing their experience, and bringing their insight, right? What she just told you was, I have her job, which is just wild, right? So, you know, the Washington State PAC has served as an incredible catalyst and foundational for us learning things that we don't even, you know, initially, I like zero interest. I don't even think I had voted ever, right, before becoming a part of the PAC, but understanding the power of our voice, understanding that we have the ability to make change, that we are not insignificant. And it's through those relationships with those stakeholders that help to build that confidence and to give us the ability to go and to carry the message to others. So I just want to give a special shout out to Lori, my mentor, my guide, my big light in this work. I have another really big light in this work, and I call her Amelia Bedelia. And she is an attorney over at the Washington State Office of Public Defense that also has a whole host of my trailblazers of sheroes and heroes. But Amelia has been also very instrumental in the development and remains completely committed to Washington State PAC. So wanted to turn it over. I also wanted to say that Amelia has celebrated a birthday and she's actually on vacation. She's so committed to this and to this work that she got out of her campsite and made her way to a place where she could get Wi-Fi to be able to share in this PAC. That's the type of commitment we have from our stakeholders. So Amelia, could you share with the folks?
Thank you, Sharonda, for that beautiful introduction. This actually feels like a birthday present to me. It's also, as similar to Lori, I feel like it's really an honor and a privilege to get to be in this work with just so many rock star parents. It's just been phenomenal and just a true privilege. I have been charged with giving some history from the WASPAC, and so if someone could be good enough to bring up the slides, and I would love to talk you through kind of the next part of our journey together. And for me, that journey starts in 2006. Prior to 2006, I had the privilege of representing parents in the court process for dependencies in Tacoma, Washington. And in 2006, our state went from being a pilot of robust parent representation to creating a statewide program, or beginning that journey. And so I came to work at the Office of Public Defense as part of the parent representation program at that time. And our director at the time was Joanne Moore. And one of the things that Joanne Moore was noticing at all of these really important statewide committees that she was going to was there were no parents. And she was asking, where are the parents? And no one, from our perspective, no one really seemed to care about having a parent voice on statewide committees enough to give them a seat at the table. And having just done parent representation, the experience I had supporting parents was, they would tell me in meetings like, everyone that I know whose kids have gone into foster care, they just have never gotten them back. And there was this true sense of isolation and exclusion that I just saw, and it seemed to be continuing. When I left Tacoma, we were in the process of trying to create a parent mentoring program. And when I came to the state agency, there were kind of like these percolating conversations that folks were saying that we really need to be doing something different. As Lori indicated, there was one organized birth parent organization called Washington Families United at the time, but it was very disregarded and ignored by the larger system. And then everything that I heard from my family, all they knew about parents in the child welfare system came from news reports around some very sad child fatality stories. And when I would go to the legislature as part of my new role, the only folks that I would see describing the experience of birth parents in child welfare were former foster parents who had lost their children and were talking to their legislators about it. And it felt very negative. Next slide, please. And pretty quickly in that first year, I heard about and was invited to an upcoming event, the Washington State Family Engagement Summit. And what I learned when I was able to go to that was it was planned in part by birth parents being in the room and organizing it. Birth parents were invited to participate. And I was able to hear from Brenda Lopez, who I had recently met as part of my job at OPD, And she was so impactful to me in inspiring a room to understand what it felt like to be in a system that was dismantling her family. And she described that as being a former veteran of the system. The summit, the 2 days of the summit were incredibly impactful and exciting to me. They were facilitated discussions on a range of topics with birth parents in the room, sharing their perspective of how they wanted to see a different system. And there were only 10% there, which I think back now, just having parents in the room was this new novel thing. And I think about just having them in the room and the impact it had on the conversations was just phenomenal, just amazing. And we started pretty quickly calling parents with lived experience from the system, veteran parents, or VPs, and that was our ongoing conversation at the time, was how do we support VPs in instilling a system that would really support parents and families. Next slide, please. There were a number of recommended strategies that came out from the summit, and one of the recommended strategies was creating a birth parent advocacy group. At that time, the focus was on having successfully reunified birth parents. So there are a lot of really interesting spaces where I've seen over time the WASPAC has changed and expanded and recognized the importance of not only having parents who got their children back through a reunification process, but also having those other important parent voices who got a different outcome as part of their participation in the system, and how important it was to have all of those shared voices in the room, having conversations about how to create a stronger state child welfare system and to really listen to what they wanted the system to be. Next slide, please. From the recommendations, pretty quickly, the first WASPAC meeting was planned. It happened in April of 2007, and there were 25 members. I had the honor of being one of those members. And there were 13 veteran parents or parent allies in the room. And that was really intentional, to have more parents in the room than the rest of us, and to really support a focus on parent allies and support what they felt the conversations in the room should be and where they wanted the system to go. My role was intended to be a supportive role. I was there to talk about my perceptions of the systems and maybe give background information that a parent having just come through the system may not know about the roles. Say, you know, what does state law say about certain things, and to really support them. Pretty quickly, there were two really key things that happened. A database was created of parent allies that wanted to be involved in the WASPAC, and a birth parent convening was planned. Next slide, please. And from that was just this incredible, phenomenal parent convening that happened. There were 125 attendees invited. More than half of the folks in the room were birth parents. And we also had staff allies there to have conversations about policy and practice. And we broke off into different convening topics: barriers to housing, how to sustain parent peer support and other mentoring programs, how to change the background system, the background check systems involved in checking the background of relatives that maybe wanted to be a placement, or birth parents that wanted to go on to other jobs in the child welfare system and were being prohibited from those jobs, and how to assure that we were engaging fathers, because we also noticed as part of our work that we were having often more mothers in the room during WASPAC meetings. So how did we really engage birth fathers to be part of that conversation? And it was, I reflect back on those topics and those focus, and it really became a platform for action plans early on for things that the WASPAC wanted to impact, that just kind of moved forward with a trajectory into future years that was incredibly impactful. I reflect back, I was invited to reflect on why I've continued to be engaged for 10 years. I think at the start, I wanted the parents that I had supported to, in doing direct representation, who had told me, I've never seen anyone who got their kids back. I wanted parents to see those other parents. And I wanted that for our child welfare agency. I wanted our agency to know this is our focus, that people change and families can reunite. And as someone that was new to the Office of Public Defense, I think one of the reasons I continued was we were growing up our statewide program, and the WASPAC was growing up at the same time, and the stars just aligned. It was an opportunity for me to realize all the blind spots I had about how parents were treated in the system. Some of it I had noticed before, and some of it I hadn't noticed. And sometimes I had thought I was doing really great, strong parent representation, and working with the parents gave me an opportunity to realize what I was missing and try and infuse that into the statewide parent representation program. I don't think we would have the parent representation program we have now if we did not have the WASPAC, and just all the parents from WASPAC on today's program, either presenting or listening. I just want to thank you so much for the work you continue to do to infuse knowledge into all of us working in child welfare. It's just been a true honor. Thank you for everything you do. And for those other states that don't have this yet, or they do, thank you for infusing your local state programs, and thank you for all you do to kind of show back up. And I'm continually in awe at parents that have gone through the system and their willingness to come back and work for the system, work for a system that should have a parent voice and be infused and have that lived experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amelia. You also brought a whole bunch of nuggets to sit with. I'm struck by the despairing parents and those that may not have seen parents as people in pain and the need for support. And you being that, and also helping to elevate your practice by being able to be in company with parents. So we are better together. We are incredibly grateful for your commitment to this work, and that after all these years, Amelia Bedelia sits at the table with us, continuing to shape how we move forward and strengthening our abilities to do so. So thank you, Amelia. All right, I am going to go into some of the structure of the Washington State PAC. Want to let you know that as the years have progressed, we've gotten a lot more organized, and so we needed some structure. And so I'm going to just review with you briefly our charter, host organization. We want to talk a little bit about our stakeholders, our wonderful alumni, that being myself, membership, our fantastic leadership. We have some subcommittees. We do have funding, training opportunities, activities to develop leadership skills, and what actually we've been able to accomplish over the years. So our charter, I want to tell you, first of all, was developed and reviewed by all of the members. In it really provides the roles and responsibilities of parent allies. It has our mission being that the Washington State PAC is to bring the parent's voice into development of child welfare policy and practice, promote equity for those in child welfare system, develop parent leadership, and elevate diverse lived experience and public awareness activities that strengthen and support families. Through this work, the Washington State PAC instills hope in parents. I want to emphasize that we instill hope in our stakeholders and the entire child welfare system in its entirety. What the charter also does is it has the Washington State values and beliefs, that being that people can change, that families reunite, and that the parent ally work looks and centers in the family as the family in its entirety. It also captures that there's a difference between the members and the voting members. It provides us with a rotation schedule of leadership for those voting members. It provides us with what the stakeholder responsibilities are, what the responsibilities of the alumni are. It has some information around the reviews of the subcommittees. How do we actually vote? What's the structure? And how often do we meet? And I want to let you know that the charter is reviewed every 2 years. The next area is the host organization. And first of all, I want to just give a shout out to Children's Home Society of Washington, who was the initial host of this work. As the years have progressed and their mission has reshaped along the way, we were seeking another organization to help carry this work, and Amara was so gracious to open up their organization to host. So Amara is a 101-year-old nonprofit. They also really envision a just world, an equitable world, and really want to look at doing some work through equity and social justice lens. I reached out to one of my other folks that I've been in relationship for quite some time, Jason Gortney, who's over at the host organization, Amara, and he's been a part of the PAC for numerous years. But I asked him why Amara actually said yes when we were seeking a new home. And what he talked about was that it really aligned with Amara's increasing growth in supporting kids and families through that equity and social justice lens. And that they have a complete belief that those that are closest to the problem are best positioned to find the solution. And that the organization also for several years has been moving their services towards supporting families to reunify and prevent child welfare involvement. The host organization, in their support for the PAC, works on aligning the organizational values and commitment to listening and supporting parent allies. They also assist and they provide some of their own staff time in assisting with scheduling, meetings, organizing, planning the agenda, strategic planning. So they're incredibly committed also and provide some of their resources in that development. They also provide accounting infrastructure because parents are stipend for this work for their participation. And so they provide us with that level of support. And they also provide us with the ability to pursue other funding opportunities. And they also have experience in policy development and advocacy. I want to say thank you to Amar for joining us in this work. The next area of the charter is we have stakeholder advisors, and you've already heard from a couple of them. But we have a whole host of those, and we have some from DCYF, OPD, which is the Office of Public Defense. DCYF is the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. The AAG's Assistant Attorney General, CASA, and Casey Families. And our advisors really help provide advice, mentoring, resources, and supports. They are very active and they participate in the Washington State PAC meetings. And they really help us in developing our policies and our practice as we are shaping such items. And I'll just use the charter as an example. Stakeholder advisors were instrumental in helping us put all of that together. And they also bring their own relevant professional development into shaping the PAC. So we utilize their own expertise and how we move forward. The next area is alumni advisors. And I want to just say that as a previous PAC member, that the opportunity to show up as an alumni has been an incredible opportunity. We are very committed to this work. And so we seek opportunities to continue to build together and to advise and support those coming behind us. So of course, the alumni also serves as a place, in advising and mentoring other PAC members. What we also do is bring our own expertise and professional experience in shaping the PAC. The other thing that alumni does really well is that we have some historical knowledge. And as we are at meetings and we are participating, we get to hear from the new members, their agendas and their ideas, and the historical knowledge can serve to be quite instrumental in how you actually move forward. So alumni is very important. We also, as alumni, support and advocate for the mission and the policy agenda. And we seek opportunities to mentor and support emerging leaders. I want to let you know that recently I was invited to the PAC to just help support on how we share our stories. And as a person who is committed to the PAC, I was very honored to be able to do that alongside with Gina. So alumni has a level of commitment to the continuously developing of those emerging leaders. The membership of the Washington State PAC, first of all, alumni, stakeholders, or a member can invite any prospect to join a meeting. And what we do is that each member, once elected, and they become a voting member, have a 3-year term, but anyone can participate and come to the meeting. But to be a voting member, you have to be voted into that. Our membership, of course, is statewide representation. And I want to just say that being a member supports so much professional and personal growth by sharing your story and by being able to contribute to the meeting and provide your perspectives and insights. Being a member really assists in developing a whole host of skills, some of those being public speaking, supporting initiatives, really being able to learn from various experiences and perspectives. You can bring that information back into your own county. We, of course, are very innovative thinkers. We look at opportunities for building leadership. Is that being a member helps with your networking, helps develop job skills and some relationship building. The Washington State PAC has an opening for membership. At that point, you can submit an application, and the membership and the governance committee will review, and then voting members make the final decision on the membership. And want to also let you know that through membership, all of our voting members are stipend for their participation in the Washington State PAC. The next area that we want to talk about is just leadership. What we have are currently 3 positions, and we will be looking at a 4th one as we continue to grow. We have a facilitator position. That facilitator prepares agendas, they contact the speakers, they meet with the host organization's representative, they facilitate the meetings, and they actually serve as the contact for outside agencies that are seeking parent ally insight. The co-facilitator position is they're always in a position of learning, because as the facilitator rotates off, the co-facilitator will actually go into that role at a later time. We have a secretary who takes notes, calendar invites, and a whole host of other duties. And as I said, as the PAC has continued to expand, there's a need for some extra support. So currently we're actually looking to add an administration position, and that will actually assist with facilitating scheduling, emailing, preparing the agenda, recruitment paperwork, emailing letters of interest, and other supports. This really will actually assist in balancing out the workload and responsibilities as the facilitator continues to be sought after a lot more from outside agencies seeking that parent ally insight. I want to let you know that all of these positions are stipend and that leadership rotates every 2 years and voting members rotate off every 3 years. The next area is the subcommittees, and the subcommittees are a really fantastic opportunity for those quieter voices that don't necessarily feel the confidence quite yet, but they certainly will get to, that they'll be able to share their insight in maybe a smaller group. So the subcommittees meet every other month. Currently, there's a membership committee and a policy committee. Recently, we actually had an ad hoc committee, that subcommittee on the story sharing that I had told you that myself and Gina participated in. Both of these subcommittees actually report back to the Washington State PAC, so an opportunity on a smaller scale to go back to the larger group and share what was learned and decided in those smaller groups. Of course, I've talked a lot about stipend positions. Those stipend positions look like leadership, look like voting members. There's also there's costs. Currently we're in the land of Zoom, but previously, before Zoom, we actually met in person. So there was lots of need for funding. So we are able to stabilize and continue to move this work through grants. I want to give a thank you to the Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Family, who also through the years has helped fund this work. Our host agency at times has had to subsidize or bolster some of the finances necessary. And also want to say thank you to philanthropy and a special shout out to Casey, as they were instrumental in the beginning pieces of developing the Washington State PAC. So lots of different funding opportunities and resources, but we have to go out there and look for some money. Also, we want to talk a little bit about training. What has happened through the development of the Washington State PAC and having this mobilized area of parent voice, the whole host organization actually ends up coordinating trainings. Currently, Amara assists with social worker trainings, foster care trainings, bringing that parent ally voice into those trainings, helping to inform and dispel some of the myths and narratives told about parents. We have lots of different activities. We're always looking at ways that we can develop new leaders. We look at support groups. We have a fantastic group called Life During CPS. Another shout out to Gina, our alumni, who was instrumental in creating that group, really a place for parents to talk about their experiences. We help develop leaders and supports for parent allies, support families during their family team decision-making meetings. Those are those initial meetings when families are looking at placement of their children. Of course, we were looking at lots of different opportunities for them to advocate on the local and state level, being able to share on the Washington State priorities, tons of opportunities for public speaking to increase the awareness of the Washington State message, which is parents or people change and families reunite. I'm asked to participate on advisory committees and focus groups. And lastly, I just want to talk about our accomplishments. The Washington State PAC has been able to pass 20 legislative items and instrumental in having the Parent Ally program, Parent for Parent, across the state. As you will hear from our panelists, each one of us actually had some type of association with Parent for Parent. It's one of our starting places. So to be able to have this statewide is pretty impressive. And we've impacted several other types of legislation, some of that being around incarcerated parents, background checks, looking at how do we support families with child visitation. Really, we've done some pretty incredible work around just keeping families together in its entirety, prevention, stopping the collection of child support from child welfare families. but most important, I want to just say that we've created a place for those that have had an experience can come and share and know that they have so much to offer. And that we really want to be able to be a place for building and supporting current and future parent leaders, developing that hope, that confidence, and instilling in them that there is nothing wasted and that they have something to offer to each person that they come into contact with. That being said, I'm going to go on to my fantastic group of panelists here who are my colleagues, peers, friends, trailblazers, and just super excited to have this space with each and every one of them. I'm going to ask each of them to do an introduction of who they are. And then from there, we will go into asking a few questions. And Gina, could you start us off and give us an introduction?
Hi everyone, my name is Gina Wassermiller, and wow, this is an emotional day, lots of memories. So I am an alumni with the Washington State PAC, and I'm a contracted social service worker with the Parent Representation Program in Washington State. I am also the parent ally with the First Legal Clinic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina. And how about you, Teresa?
Hi, I'm Teresa DeFair. I can agree this is really emotional, and I am currently a Parents for Parents coordinator here in Washington State, and I am currently the Washington State PAC facilitator.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Justice. I am a new WAPAC member. I am also a full-time student and a parent ally with the First Clinic.
And my dear friend, Jason.
My name is Jason Bragg. I am a WASPAC alumni. I'm also contracted with the State Office of Public Defense. I am a member of our citizen review panel here in Washington State. And I'm really grateful to be here. Just hearing some of the history and stuff just brought back like the advocacy of when they were wanting to shut down Parents for Parents, and you know, in a matter of months, we mobilized an entire state of stakeholders and parents to really push forward to recognize the parent voice and keep this whole movement here in Washington State just going forward. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you so much, Jason. I would like to point out to our audience that we have 3 generations here of the Snohomish PAC. So we have Gina as the alumni, we have Teresa, who is the current facilitator, and they are bringing Jennifer along, and we hope to see her as a member in leadership real soon. So that is the power of the lineage line of the Washington State PAC. It's pretty fun to watch it in live and living color here. I'm going to ask a few questions. So my first question to the panel is, can you tell me why you became involved with the Washington State Parent Ally Committee? And I'm going to start off with Gina.
Yes, wow, after hearing everything today, like this is a really powerful question for me. And when I think back, I think about, you know, when I became back then, it was a veteran parent in Snohomish County. And I became a part of my local PAC and learning my leadership skills. And like, I'll never forget the day that I was invited to come to the Washington State PAC committee and represent my county. Like the people trusted in me to show up and represent the work that we were doing. And it was such a powerful moment to sit there with so many other parents around the state, and you know, Sharonda is a facilitator, and just Ambrosia for Spokane, and like all of us hearing and supporting each other. And it really was a starting point for me in creating who I am today and helping me build, Sharonda, my self-esteem and find my voice and to be able to. Thanks.
You're making me get weepy. You're bringing it back, Gina. Oh my goodness. Finding your voice. You've got such a beautiful one to share. Thank you. Teresa.
So I wrote a few things down because I knew I'd get lost. I just want, why I became involved is no matter where we're at in our story and experience, we deserve support, connection, and belonging.
Mm.
During my dependency process, it was indescribable, confusing, and isolating. After being reunified, I was invited to the Washington State PAC and instantly knew that my shame and pain now had a purpose, as there was now a committee that was working on ways to support parents. I was encouraged by alumni to become a voting member, at which time I came in asking lots of questions. So at that time, a facilitation position came up. Sharonda reached out to me and she said my curiosity was a strength. She asked if I'd be willing to turn in my nomination for leadership. And my instant thought was no. I felt the anxiety of fear. She mentioned my strengths and she mentioned that I wouldn't have to do it alone. I would be supported. I took a couple days process and realized that that anxiety I once knew as fear was now the anxiety I know as courage. Since then, I've grown in the Washington State PAC. And whether we are just coming in and entering in the child welfare system and at some places, or we're a parent ally at the WASPAC and growing in our connection and belonging, it's fundamental to positive growth and change for parents, policies, committees, and families.
Thank you for that, Teresa. I'm grateful you said yes, and you are doing an extraordinary job. I knew you would. Hey, Jennifer, how about you?
Yeah, so like Amelia said earlier, I'm a parent who had both types of outcomes. I had a dependency that ended in the termination of my parental rights, and I had a family voluntary case that ended with me being able to keep my child. So I really needed a place to give back. And that's how it started for me, where it was I wanted to be a part of a greater support and a sense of community. But I also wanted to pave the way for other parents so that they didn't have to go through the same struggles and things that I did. And Gina, who is my mentor just in life in general, but also as a parent ally, asked me to apply to become a voting member. And although I am not, I still participate as a member in the subcommittees, and I will continue because paving that way for other parents is my goal and is my future.
Thank you, Jennifer. And we are so delighted to have you a part of the PAC. That is for sure. Your presence is strong. Jason.
Man, my journey to the PAC. My journey to the PAC was much like I got started in this work. My mentors, some that are still here and some that are not, doing the work anymore. Shane Rochester and Gina and yourself, Sharonda and Kimberly Mays were, hey, we've got this for Dad's Matter conference. Get in the car and show up for a gift card and some pizza, right? That's how I got started in this work. And, how I got going to the PAC was Kimberly and Elise were going to the PAC meeting that day, and I was at work, and they were like, hey, come get in the car. We'll give you a ride, right? And that's how a lot of this stuff worked in the beginning was, hey, come get in the car. We're going over here to do this. And you just went. I was dumbfounded at how much leadership and how many people that were just like me that had some positive, some negative outcomes, but we're all together, bonded together by our common experience, really were demanding seats at the table, and we're guided by our amazing stakeholders that were like, maybe we don't use this big giant hammer to get our point across, right? Like, here's the point where we can, be strategic and helping us formulate our stories and helping us formulate our message to bring us along, right? To help us utilize our experience and our pain to ensure that families don't experience what we did, right? to help them really gain that support that we all desperately wanted, but oftentimes didn't receive, right? And it's been a wild ride, man. It's been a wild ride. So
thank you for that, Jason. And what I'm struck by is trusting, right? That you've got some trust and some parent allies. They say, come along, you don't question, you go, okay, right? Like we've got that just immediate trust with one another. As we move into our next question, what do you think are some of the most successful strategies that have moved policy in Washington State? And I'm going to start off with Teresa on this one.
For me, there's kind of like a trifecta, I'm gonna call it, I guess. And it starts with the stakeholders, being able to share their wealth of experience with parent allies, being able to have that reliable and structured foundation to teach us the legislation, how a bill's passed and things like that, to make it less scary and more digestible. As we all know, when we're coming out of trauma, our comprehension is low. And so they offer that grace and compassion when teaching us. As for our fellow parent allies, it's taking the time to reach out, to learn our stories, to apply our stories to testimony, and have that mentoring to turn that, again, that hardship into a vulnerable purpose. For the host agency, it's the preparing behind the scenes, as how we identify with support, belonging, and connection changes from the time we initially start the WASPAC. They help us grow through those pains and become brave with their compassionate and understanding approach. Thank you.
Gina.
Oh gosh, the most successful strategy that, gosh, when I think about that question, what comes up for me is, you know, at a time, you know, part of my membership was I was the policy lead for Snohomish County at the same time as I was the facilitator for Snowpack and Life During CPS support group. And it was so fun when it was legislation time and being able to just kind of take it to the next level and be able to come to Life During CPS where all the parents were. And wow, it was this memory. We would make little Valentines and we would decorate the hearts and we would all come together, the kids and the moms and the dads and everybody in the support group, and we would learn about the bills that Washington State PAC was supporting, and everybody writing the bills that we were supporting, and please support bill da 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 da, and then bringing those parents down that could come, filling up my van, driving to Olympia, and handing out those hearts that we made. From Life During CPS to the legislators to support what we were doing in the movement that we were creating in veteran parent movement, parent ally movement. And then, you know, them getting to learn a little bit more in that support group and wrapping it up with the Shamrocks. And, you know, just that extra nudge, don't forget us, we're here, support this bill. And, but just creating unity in my local area for the work that we were doing on a state level. Oh yeah, that was a successful strategy for me, taking it up a notch. Thanks.
Thank you, Gina. And how about you, Jason?
Man, you know, when I think about like the successful strategies, I think about the generative capacity that the Washington State PAC has created with just the lineage that you see here with Gina, Teresa, and Jennifer, and bringing other parents along in the mentorship that takes place. And I think about the amazing mentors that I had that helped really inform like my professional development, my personal development, and the way things are just organically grown through our shared experience and the love exchanged in the room. Like you can feel it when you're in this room of parents from across the state, and we're passionately talking about, you know, changes that are happening and how we can get to those tables to inform the stakeholders and the policy leaders that are, you know, thinking something's a good idea, and then being able to share our experience and really utilizing our experience and the wealth of knowledge that's shared in these rooms to inform them of the unintended consequences that they might not have thought about, right? And might not have had the opportunity to consider because they don't have that experience, right? And bringing that to the forefront so that, you know, we can help try and reduce the trauma and harm that takes place for so many families. I think that the networking strategy that has been developed, and really, I mean, it's the gold standard of mobilization. You know, the way in which folks are brought together and mobilized so quickly is really, it's a thing of beauty.
Thank you for that, Jason. You talking some truth right there, brother. So we're making it all sound so rosy. What are the challenges to getting others to listen to parent voices? That part. Gina, start us off.
Yeah, you know, gosh, I know for me, I've had challenges along the ways. I started doing this in 2010, and when I have reached point of challenge, I've reached out and leaned on to the parent allies before me, and, you know, asked, you know, I'm seeing it this way. It's a challenge for me. You know, I constantly, when I hit those battles, I'm reaching out to Kimberly Mays. I mean, after all these years, like, help me. I mean, can you help me overcome this challenge and find a way around it? Because I know for me, I don't give up. Where there's a will, there's a way, and there's enough of us to keep this movement going. And I'm not letting this challenge stop me. So I reach out to others. And I always finish it up with, Jason, what do you think about this? Thanks.
Sure, that's a short conversation. Just messing with him. Jennifer, what's your experience with this?
So I have been, what I feel like is really lucky when it comes to challenges, getting my voice heard as a parent ally, because of all the work all of you have done has really paved a way for me to experience less challenges. I feel like everywhere I go saying I'm a WASPAC member or I'm a parent ally with the first clinic, doors open up for me and my voice is respected and heard and valued in a way that, especially as a parent who has had difficulties in my life, I've never experienced. I just have never experienced that, right? And so that's what the WASPAC does though, right? It makes it so that when we collaborate with other people, we are, and that's something that I look forward to also contributing to for new generations after me.
Nice, paving the road. I love that. And Teresa.
Yeah, it's definitely the bridging the gap towards the biases of parents with lived experiences, learning to build those gaps, or we're learning to, I'm going to slow down. It's the initial showing up to the tables and knowing what the connection is, how to advocate, where to belong, who to be supported by, and overcoming and getting involved.
And lastly, Jason, on that question.
You know, I would say bias, you know, and lack of exposure to parents that have gone through the system, or parents that experience the type of barriers that even bring them to the attention of the child welfare system. You know, I can remember speaking with a specific legislative aide and talking about, you know, trying to get them to help support something. And his response was, well, why would we want to help those people? Right. And the thing about it is that me now, I don't look nothing like I did when I first came in and I was involved with the child welfare system. You know, I'm down there, you know, speaking with him, and I've got a button up and a tie and slacks, and I'm looking, you know, presentable and very clean and fresh, right? And I said, well, because I am one of those people, right? I am one of those people. And his whole face just changed. And he, at that point, I could see in his eyes that he's seen the ability for people to change, right? Because here I am sharing with him what my story looked like. And he's like, this isn't the person that you're describing. That's not what my eyes are seeing, right? And so just being able to help change the hearts and minds by, you know, one-on-one conversations, you know, that's the solution.
All right, we're gonna wrap up with one last question here. So you guys take 1 minute each, if you wouldn't mind. What strategies do you recommend that would help other parents and community organizations do this work? And Teresa.
I would say making that space for the holistic leadership growth to happen, knowing that parent allies are going to come in and with the imperfections and doubts, and being part of them growing, because that doubt eventually becomes self-worth, and just really leaning into that. Like, it's like, I guess I would call it like a holistic advanced leadership approach, and knowing that it's impactful.
You had a nugget there. Doubt, investment, self-worth. I got to put that on a shirt. Okay. Gina.
So yeah, mine too. You know, just learning along the way, and really, you know, creating timeframes for different leadership so that everybody gets an opportunity to grow in that space of leadership and using voice. And I mean, really just creating that generated capacity. I mean, when we look at this, you know, my first parent ally in a meeting is Teresa, and now me, and then Jennifer. And, you know, really creating that ability to sustain is creating timelines on leadership to create the movement to continue to grow, I think is so important in community.
And Jennifer.
Thank you. Gina, I was going to say too, that sustainability, you know, and the investment, not just resources, but obviously resources, right? But tangible, like being there, and just the commitment, the supportiveness, I guess that's.
And lastly, Jason.
You know, I would say creating the space and opportunity, right? And including both fathers and mothers in your creation, right? And really allowing and catapulting their voices to the top, and allowing for that parent-led leadership, right? That's the place in which, you know, and I'm going to give a shout out to Lori and Amelia, right? It's like when sometimes we'll be in the room and look over and say, well, what do we think? And Amelia and Lori's responses are like, you guys make the decision, right? Having that support of, it's our decision, where do we want to take this, right? As the experts. So
thank you. As we round out this and we head into some questions, I'd like to just give you one last little tidbit here that summarizes what I hope you've learned here today is that, first of all, parents that navigate the child welfare system, what makes them or breaks them is support. Parents who have support are more than likely to get their children home. And what we have as parents who have navigated the system is we know that power. We know how it instills confidence, self-esteem, worth, empowerment. And we want to take that and bring that to other parents. So what the Washington State PAC really embodies is the beautiful nature of just supporting one another, building those strong relationships, using expertise and knowledge to help shape how we move forward. So I just want to say thank you to all of the panelists. I also want to say thank you to my stakeholders who have invested in parents with their time and expertise and commitment to this work. And so thank you for all of that. We are running a bit late. We're going to open it up, and I'm hoping that we can get to a couple questions, but maybe just one. We'll see how it goes. And so I'm going to turn it over to one of our
I'll be happy to step in
No,
there for you,
thank you, Kara,
Sharonda,
for that.
because there is a great question that came up that kind of, you were starting to hit on it a little bit, and that is, how does the group navigate disagreement in ideas or opinions and moving toward an agreed upon solution?
Teresa, why don't you take that as the facilitator?
So that's a really good question. And like, I'll just share, at our last membership subcommittee meeting, we had a difference of a way to approach revising the charter. And so what we did in that meeting is we changed the agenda and we created it into the bigger agenda. And so that became our July meeting. So our April subcommittee meeting created the July agenda meeting for the whole state pack. And we're gonna organize with some direct questions and understanding so we can go back to the next membership subcommittee and then do the work around it. So we don't get caught up on like having like a rigid approach, but more of a flexible, bringing in everyone's voices, creating the environment for that, and then making greater goals out of it.
Great, thank you, Teresa. One of the other questions that came in, besides, I mean, the inspiration that all of you have given us today, especially for those who have been working a long time and seeing slow progress, is what about strategies that maybe could be used towards the distrust between organizations and families?
Let's think about that for a minute. So I am thinking about why the organization is distrustful and the opportunities to help to build those relationships. Currently, we have this interesting dynamic going on, and I'll share it because it's actually with our host agency. Our host agency is a child placing agency, and they have taken on an initiative to help strengthen relationships between birth parents and foster parents. So on the surface, right, you'd be like, those guys can't really come together. But because of their investment and commitment to building those strong relationships, right, we take on those challenging proposals that on the surface are like, what we're getting to witness in many of circles, and I'm thinking about the trailblazer of that particular work, is myself as a birth parent and her as a foster parent. We are in many, many circles together, helping to educate and inform many folks along the way. I think it's important for people to see those strong relationships. And so where are the opportunities to build those, right? The most unlikely of partnerships, and finding those one or two allies inside of the organization that may have be persuaded to take a chance. I think that the thing that is most important for us is to know is that we all come to this with bias. We all come to this with narratives, and the things that changes is the experience. And so when we create the opportunity to have experience with each other and to come into contact with one another, we have the opportunity to change the story. So look for opportunities to change the story. Be a disruptor. That's what I like to call myself. Where are the places that we can disrupt the stories told and be able to create new ones, all in unity and coming together.
Love that, Sharonda, and so appreciate you and your team. The inspiration, I mean, I think we can all feel it in the chat. A lot of the questions have been like, where is this recording going to live? And how do we get some of this great content that you all shared? All of that will be posted to the Alliance's Birth Parent National Network page. I see people in the chat wanting to move to Washington to join your subcommittees and things like that. So I can just tell you, be looking out. Your population may greatly increase as a result of this wonderful presentation that you all shared, but just a huge piece of thanks because today not only did you share information, but you shared heart. And I think that's what's really important as we're doing this work and going forward. Some other opportunities as we get ready to close is we wanted to tell you about some virtual presentations coming up. One is our Birth and Foster Parent Partnership is going to be having a fabulous presentation next week of all fathers doing their perspectives on building birth and foster parent partnerships that last. You can register using the link that'll be dropped in the chat for that. Also, we have moved up the Birth Parent National Network with BPNN's virtual convening. It will be our 8th annual. It's going to be in June this year, talking about racism and anti-racism and the social ecology. So I encourage you to sign up for that if you have not, and we'll get that link dropped in the chat as well. All of these things can be found on the Alliance's website at www.ctfalliance.org. We have banners at the top that are consistently updated with all this information. And again, all of this information today will get posted on the website as well and be available for you. Other important things to be connected to, if you are not, is Family First Prevention Services. There's a great organization called Family Voices United. It's a collaboration between Generations United, Foster Club, and the Children's Trust Fund Alliance. We work together to really elevate parent voice. And so I encourage you to check out this website because there have been many opportunities where parent voices have been uplifted with resources you can share and use. In addition to that, there's currently a share your perspective question that you can go ahead and share your perspective on. Right now, that question is what services or supports would have helped prevent you or your family or relatives from coming into contact with the child welfare system? Sharing your perspective gives you a chance to win a $50 gift card. So I encourage you, share your perspective because I know from watching the chat today, you all have a lot that you could say about this. So get those perspectives in and let's really lift up parent voice on this. Let's get that nice, loud, and strong. Also, the Alliance has our book club guide for parents about the book, What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. Go ahead, check that out. If you are hosting a book club, I encourage you to click the form and let us know because we're going to be having some great opportunities for follow-up around that. And lastly, I want to pass it to Johnny for this because Johnny, why do they need to save these 2 dates?
Thank you, Kara. First reminder that the Alliance will be holding this next caring conversation on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and 10 a.m. my time, Pacific Time. These are amazing conversations that happen every Monday that put on through the BPNN that can share and begin, have a good beginning to the week. Also watch for the registration announcement for the next BPNN webinar that's happening Thursday, August 25th. We'll be sending out registration information later today or tomorrow. So please keep on the lookout for that. And back over to you, Kara.
Thanks so much, Johnny. And those caring conversations are a great way for our network to stay connected. So I encourage you to check those out if you have never done that before. Also, that reminds me, remember, we want to increase our network. So be encouraging people to join so we can have that awesome drawing later this month where we'll draw a couple lucky winners to win some gift cards for joining and boosting up our network. And last but not least, we need to hear from you. There's a quick evaluation. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple minutes to fill it out, give us your feedback. We really look at it. That is why these webinars have gone from an hour to an hour and a half. Think about today, an hour and a half wasn't even long enough. We could have probably spent like a whole half day with this group. And so I encourage you all to keep us posted on how things are going. And I see, Isis, that you had a question, and I believe it was tied to joining a subcommittee with the group. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I would also like to, hi everyone, by the way. I'm a peer and parent advocate from Miami in the child welfare system. So how do I get like letters from you guys to like join every time you have one of these seminars? I would love to like get newsletters from you guys.
Absolutely. So what we will do is I will locate your email in our registration list, and I'll send you a form that you can fill out, and then you will be connected to help join our network, and you will get notifications anytime we have presentations such as this, or also when we have other information that we share out to the Birth Parent National Network about celebrations of the parent voice or other things that we have going on. Great
That's
question, and
beautiful.
so glad you asked it.
Beautiful. That way I can share all this information and educate people in Miami here and other peers. Share this information. That is wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. And that is what it's all about. Sharing information, building relationships, and building connection. And with that, I wanted to just take a moment, let Iquana close this out and say our goodbye for today. And so Iquana, would you like to say goodbye and close this out for today?
Yes, I first want to thank everybody for their presentations. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. Thanks everyone for joining and coming and joining us. I'm driving now, so if I sound a little distracted, forgive me. But yeah, we just want to thank you all for coming, joining. We learned a lot and from you all. And again, thank you, and thank y'all for having me as always.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Iquana. It is about all of us doing this work together. But thank you all for taking the time. I really hope you have the opportunity to give us some feedback. Let us know what you thought, because I think we all got a huge dose of inspiration. I know there's definitely some wet eyes in the audience for more than just the Washington team, because you all were such an inspiration. Thank you for taking the time. And Amelia, I hope you have a wonderful, happy birthday. Thank you so much for your dedication to this work and being such a strong stakeholder.
Kara,
Yes, Meryl.
This is Meryl. And I just wanted to say a personal thank you to everyone today. The presentation was truly amazing. And I just wanted to say, it was so inspiring. And there were so many pearls of wisdom that were shared throughout the entire presentation. And Sharonda, a special shout out to you for helping to organize and put it all together. And it was truly just a work of love that I could feel throughout the entire presentation today. And kudos to everyone. The wonderful work you're doing in Washington. We hope to see that spread not only in Washington, but throughout the country. So we hope you'll take advantage. The BPNN is a hub and a way to get information like this. And if you're not a member, Kara's sharing that you can join, and we will certainly send you information if you're interested in becoming a member. But thank you to Sharonda, thank you to Amelia, to Lori Lippold, and to the wonderful panelists, Jason, Jennifer, Teresa, and Gina. You did an awesome job, and just wanting to let you know how much we really appreciate it.
And Teresa, would you like to say a final goodbye to everyone today?
Well, I'll just say ditto, but I'll also brag a second. I live in Seattle. And even though I had absolutely nothing to do with all the work you heard about today, I'm so proud that I live in this state with such wonderful people. I know every state does, but you guys, I'm in my proud of Seattle and Washington state moment. So thank you all so much for all you've done. I've really been a very passionate observer of your work, and with deep appreciation. And I used to work at Children's Home Society, and I knew Lori there, and it's so personal to me how far you all have taken this work. And I just can't say enough kudos and appreciation, and thank you for bringing it to this work, sharing it through the BPNN, and just really making your own trek a model that others could follow. So thank you all so much. I think we're ready to let people go. Is that right?
Yes, we are. Take care, everyone. It has been wonderful being with you. Stay well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.